I think we can recognize that all of us have at least two different ways of thinking. One, kind of monkey brain consciousness from which we give people telephone numbers and street directions. And two, something comes out of you, these epiphanies. Realize that when these epiphanies come out as symbolic commentary on the state of our lives, that C.G. Jung entitled this energetic eruption into our consciousness of an archetype.
A sort of basis of consciousness of a creative nature, namely capable of autonomous acts.
Just the song means a lot, you know. There's so much change, and it's just a complete reflection.
Nothing seems to be the way that it used to. Everything seems shallow. God, give me truth and tell me somebody's watching over me. Don't you run too fast, my dear. Why don't you stop? Just stop and listen to your tears. They're all you've got.
Autonomous intrusions into consciousness.
Nothing seems to be the way that it used to. Everything seems shallow. God, give me truth. Everything seems shallow. Don't you run too fast, my dear. Why don't you stop?
Like I said, don't run from your problems. You need to stop. You need to stop what you're doing and think.
I'd written that book that cost me my friendship with Freud because he couldn't accept it. Yes. To him, the unconscious was a product of consciousness. Yes. And it simply contained the remnants. I mean, it was sort of a storeroom where all the discarded things of consciousness were heaped up and left. But to me, the unconscious then was already a matrix, a sort of basis of consciousness of a creative nature, namely capable of autonomous acts.
Everything seems shallow.
Autonomous intrusions into consciousness.
Philemon and other figures of my fantasies brought home to me the crucial insight that there are things in the psyche which I do not produce, but which produce themselves and have their own life. Psychologically, Philemon represented superior insight. All my works, all my creative activity has come from those initial fantasies and dreams which began in 1912.
Don't you run too fast, my dear. Why don't you stop?
One factor, and there is another factor, equally important, that is the unconscious, that can interfere with consciousness anytime it pleases. And of course, I say to myself now, this is very uncomfortable, because I think I am the only master in my house, but I must admit that there is another somebody in that house that can play tricks. And I had to deal with the unfortunate victims of that interference every day in my patients.
It's something that touches upon the whole of man, and which challenges also the whole of man in the patient or whatever the receiving part is, as well as in the doctor.
one of the tremendous things which Jung did was to always emphasize the aspect of man's totality. And our totality is not complete unless we take our human failings into it. It doesn't mean that I necessarily have always to live my human failings. I obviously may have to take responsibility for them. But they are not only part of me, but they are part of every human being. That is to say, it is part of man.
The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. That is to say, when the individual remains undivided and does not become conscious of his inner contradictions, the world must act out the conflict and be torn into opposite halves.
In the past, I made the mistake of making someone a god, a man, and...
Everybody's made that mistake.
Well, I have to suffer. I feel like it hurts. I'm suffering for it.
You take your identity. You take your identity from the process of making somebody a god.
Sweet the sin, bitter the taste in my mouth.
It carries with it the antithesis of everything that you are meant to be. In other words, a total opposite. It's the total opposite creature from what you might otherwise be. And worse, conflict with the creature you were. And it starts to grow and has its being and establishes a life of its own.
You don't have to have violence to be violated. You can be loved, hypnotized by a kiss, an embrace. A sort of a wanted or exuberant embrace that overwhelms and awakens the enema, the underwear, and other things in your head. All kinds of things. Lightning goes through your brain, and you are violated. And you, in that violation, you will feel so high and so mighty and so complete.
It's instant, and it takes over your whole body. I found my soulmate.
So liberated from something that you throw your family under the bus.
Family is the most important thing in the world.
This is my sister, Jamie.
I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for my mom, you know, believing in me. Larry is my manager. He's awesome. He's cool. He's very smart. I'm scared, Mo. Have my security Mo. Felicia is my assistant. She's not just my assistant. She's my friend. She'd do anything for me, and I'd do anything for her.
She got blisters between her toes from her flip-flops.
I remember I just cried. I was like, thinking we should please take us cab or something.
You're like, I'll pay. Remember we were poor. See, I'll pay for it.
She said poor. She said poor. She said poor. We were.
I was really happy then. I was content.
And you are rewarded. Haven't you ever seen people upset you and walk away satisfied?
You're making me look stupid.
No, I'm not. I'm not making her look stupid. No.
Wait, come back in here.
I'm not coming back anywhere. I'm not making her look stupid. No.
Wait, come back in here.
I'm not coming back anywhere.
When you are compromised, when you are upset about something, when you're challenged and you don't know how to deal with pressure, tease, confrontation, vilification, demonizing, when you don't know how to deal with that, then you get upset, and that becomes hypnotic state.
Compare this with Sullivan's concept of inability to deal with rebuff. in his definition of schizophrenia, as well as C.G. Jung's You Have the Idea of a Deity, which you can see in my Wedding Fugue YouTube video.
Give me 4 weeks. Put me in a ring with you, boxing gloves. I swear to God, as much aggression as I have in me that I've been holding back,
As I have noted briefly before, these situations may be accompanied either by such fascination that the person, despite dreadful feelings, cannot seem to avoid being entangled with this unpleasant person who has taken advantage of him.
Why do you think I can't let go?
Then you're not real. It felt like I was living a movie.
She thinks that the way that me and her hooked up was planned.
We went to a club, and all of a sudden, out of the blue,
and it was then that I saw it was Jesus.
Kevin's there.
Sure, I was there. I had to sell some dope, lift a purse, or somehow hustle a few dollars. It's not like I have a job, you know.
So that's why I think that you're not real.
You also look for what I call unconflicted people. Unconflicted people. People without guilt. People without shame.
When the person who customarily esteems significant others higher than himself finds a person to whom domineering and vassalizing others is their source of security, these people fall readily into each other's orbit.
He's too cool and too smooth for me. Something's up.
This guy.
See?
She seemed very young. The impression I came away with was that it would be wrong to have adult thoughts about Britney Spears. I mean, she may be 21, but she seems, again, young, in a nice way. But I mean, this is someone, you know, who's been in entertainment most of her life, and I think she leads a very different life than we do, say, in cable. You know, kind of sequestered. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm positive
That this was not planned.
The pod people all over the place! Pod people! Pod!
She thinks the monkey is the Sultan.
Oh, wise Sultan, how may I serve you?
Why did you have to be so wonderful?
it's too good to be true.
It was a really big thing for me to open up, and I don't like being vulnerable.
It is a regular observation that when you talk to an individual, and this individual gives you insight into its inner preoccupations, interests, emotions. In other words, hands over his personal complexes.
It was a really big thing for me to open up.
Then you get slowly and nilly-willy into the situation of a sort of authority.
Last time we went out, Kevin got mad.
A point of, you become a point of reference.
What are you saying, Mr. Perfect?
You know you are in possession of all the important items in a person's development. Now you see, that creates an emotional relationship to the analyst.
And I don't like being vulnerable.
And that is what Freud called the transference. Yes. Which is a central problem of analytic psychology. It is just so as if these people had handed out their whole existence.
I don't know if you know who you are until you lose who you are.